Hi, I'm Natalie from the Felicity Branch Library. Thank you for joining me today for the program that I am calling Propagation Magic. So there's really nothing magic about propagating plants from plants that you have. It just seems like it's magic, and it's such a cool thing because if you want to increase your plants that you have, some simple propagation techniques are the way to go. It's easy, it's fast, and you don't have to spend any money. You've already got your stock plants to work with. So today I'm going to talk about 3 really simple propagation methods. One is division, one is cuttings, both stem and leaf, and the third one is layering. So I'm mostly going to just be talking about houseplants today, but these are also things you can do for outdoor plants as well. So today's just houseplants. So I'm going to start off first with division. And I've brought along a begonia. So it really doesn't need to be divided just yet. It's pretty happy in the pot that it's growing in, but I brought it along because first of all, it was easy for me to transport, and it's going to be easy for me to show you how to divide a plant. So it's just as simple as it sounds. You're just taking a plant and you can see all of those stems that are growing in there. So there's more than one plant in there. I'm just going to kind of loosen the root ball up a little bit, and you're going to see that, and you can even feel the roots as you kind of pull them apart. And it is not going to hurt the plant. It might give it a bit of a shock for a little while, but it's going to bounce right back. These are pretty hardy plants. Nice roots growing there. And so what I've done is just divided this plant into 2 plants. You've got that. I like terracotta pots. Definitely a pot that's got a hole in the bottom, okay? And I always use broken terracotta because I always have broken pots. And so what you're going to do is put that little piece of pot in the bottom, plug up your hole, pop your divided plant in there, add a little more potting soil, water it in, and now you've got 2 plants where you had 1. Okay, so that's all there is to division. So if you were outside working in the garden and you had a plant that you wanted to divide, so let's say fall is a great time to divide perennials. So let's say you have a clump of, oh, I don't know, black-eyed Susans or hostas or whatever. You're going to take your shovel and you're going to go right down into the plant. You're going to go down into the roots, and you're going to do the same thing that we did here, okay, with your outside plants. And that's how you divide outdoor plants. Okay, so that's division. The next one I want to talk about is cuttings. I've brought examples of, there's some plants you can root from the leaves. So this is an African violet, and these are leaf cuttings. And then I've got what I like to refer to now as wandering dude. So it's known by another name, but I think it's a little better. I like the name wandering dude better than its previously known name. These are stem cuttings. With leaf cuttings, not every leaf is going to root. And what you need to do is if you are rooting in water, it's really important to check these every once in a while. Now, I don't have any roots on any of these yet, and I've had them in there for a couple of weeks, but you want to check them because sometimes those ends can rot and get a little decay, and that's going to mess up the water. So you want to check those probably weekly. Put in fresh water if you need it. But that's all there is to rooting African violet leaves in water. They're really quite easy to do. It's just going to take it a little time. All right, so there's that one. Again, not every leaf is going to root for you. African violet leaves will root. I've got some calancho. Those leaves root very easily. I'm trying to think what else roots very easily for me as well in water, leaf-wise. Oh, Hoyas. So a Hoya plant is also known as a wax plant, and so you can get those leaves to root, but if you don't have a node on the leaf stem that could grow out into a stem, you're never going to have anything more with Hoya than just a rooted leaf. So it's never going to grow stems. So that's one that it will root, but it's not going to give you anything more than a leaf. So I did want to mention that. Now I'm going to go on to cuttings from stems. This is probably, this wandering dude is probably one of the easiest plants to root in water. I've had these things root in a day. They root really quickly. So, and they grow so quickly. You can see how long they get. I'm kind of getting overgrown with these things at home, basically. So I'm going to show you how you're going to make a stem cutting from this. So if you look, it's an alternate leaf. So you have a leaf on every other side of the stem, right? You can see that. And right below where the leaf is, there's a little node. And so what's going to happen, I'm going to cut just below that little node, and you can see it there. And that's what's going to root for you, okay? That would be your cutting. And like I said, I would not be surprised if I had a rooted cutting in a day or two. It does not take long at all. And what I use, you can see I've got just an old jelly jar here. I like topping it with a piece of Reynolds wrap because then you can just poke holes in there and it holds the stem just where you want it to go. Easy enough. So this is just a bud vase that I've been using for this. And you can also see, remember how I told you, you want to make sure you keep your water clean. So you can see there's a little bit of stuff floating in there. Just some of the plant parts start to decompose a bit. So you want to keep an eye on your water. Make sure your water stays good and clean. That's going to help a lot. This one, for example, has got all kinds of roots. That guy is ready to be rooted, but I'm going to stick him back in there for now. Let's see if I can find a couple that are a little bit smaller. This one could even be cut right here, and it could be cut and you could have all kinds of plants growing. Water stems, you want to make sure that the roots are at least an inch long before you plant them in dirt. And these roots are a little bit weaker than they're going to be when they're growing in potting soil. Okay, I'm going to pot all 4 of those up, I think. So again, I've got my terracotta pot, which I really like because it's really hard to kind of overwater in these because they're porous. If you've overwatered, the water's going to evaporate through the terracotta. So it's a pretty good potting medium pot to use. This one is one that's ceramic. It's glazed on the inside. So it's not going to be quite as breathable as these terracotta pots are here. So I've got my piece of tile on the bottom covering the hole. And all you're going to do is just put your plants in there. You're going to make sure that the roots are down in the soil. And you're going to pour your potting soil right in there. Now, one thing I don't have with me is water to water it in. After you've potted these guys up, you're going to want to give them a good drink. And people will often say, well, how often do you water? There is no schedule for watering because everyone's house is different as far as the temperature. The seasons are different. I'm noticing my houseplants do not need as much water right now as they did earlier on in the year when it was summertime. What I like to do is water them till the water runs out the bottom and then they're watered, okay? Do not let them sit in a saucer with water. That's usually not a good thing for your plant. And I meant to mention before, with these pots, what I like to do when you get them new at the store is to bring them home and soak them in water because they'll absorb all the water. And that way, let's say you've got a pot that's brand new and you're ready to pot something up and you haven't soaked it in water. It's going to suck up all the water when you water your plant. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you've conditioned your pot for your plant that's in there, okay? So those are stem cuttings. Pretty easy. And I want to talk about the dirt too. I do a lot of succulents and cactus, and people a lot of times will say, well, what kind of dirt do you use? I'm pretty picky about the potting soil that I use. There's a major brand that I don't have a whole lot of luck with. It seems like when I use that one, I always end up with fungus gnats for some reason. So I found that spending a little more money going with an organic, and I'm actually using succulent and cactus soil, but it's a looser soil. The water drains through it better. I add a little bit. These white pieces are vermiculite, and that loosens the soil up too. And I really like this soil. It works good for regular plants as well as succulents and cactus. And so I'm going to end with talking about this. This is my little propagation dish. When I'm working with plants, you know how it is. Sometimes you might knock one off. You might break a piece off. So these are all pieces that have broken off. So I wanted to talk about layering. This is a piece from my rickrack cactus that got knocked off. And you can see all of these roots, all of these aerial roots. When this cactus is growing in its natural habitat, all these aerial roots shoot out, and it's going to find a medium where it can grow, so it can propagate, regenerate itself. All I did was just, when I apparently knocked this off when I was working with it, is just stuck it down in this pot, and you can see it's got nice roots on it here, and of course these aerial roots, and this will be another rickrack cactus. So that's all there is to layering. I can remember years ago, my grandmother was quite the gardener, and she had lovely roses in her garden. And she would sometimes layer her roses. So she would pull a cane down to the ground. She would use a wire to keep the stem down in contact with the soil, pin it down, and then sometimes she would turn over like an empty jelly jar and put it over top of that. It would kind of give it kind of a greenhouse effect and help it to root a little bit quicker, and then she could rose starts off of that. I think I probably got a lot of my gardening love from her. At least I like to think that I did. I've got some Christmas cactus here, and these guys root really simply. What else do I have in there? This is a piece of my grandmother's plant. That plant would have been probably 100 years old by now. It's just a little piece of night blooming cereus. It's another succulent cactus type plant, and that roots very easily. Broke off a piece of one of my holiday cactus with buds on it, so I'm trying to get it to continue. What else do we have? Piece of the Wandering Dude. This is another piece that was one of my grandmother's plants. This is a geranium, and it's got a nice root on it, but it's simply the leaf. I'm pretty sure, like I told you before with Hoyas, there are times you're going to just get a leaf and the leaf's going to grow. I've had this in here for months. I don't think I'm going to get much of a plant out of it, but I've got a lovely growing leaf in there. I keep this in my kitchen. When I knock a plant off, I stick it right in the soil there. These are so simple to propagate here. These are pieces of burro's tail, which is a succulent. Those, a lot of times, you don't even have to put them in dirt, and they'll send up new little babies right off of them. So propagating houseplants is an easy and a fun thing to do. It's an easy way to increase your collection. It's a nice way to share with friends and family, because I think true gardeners love to share plants with other gardeners. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've learned perhaps a new technique or two to help you increase your plants that you have at home. Thank you.